Morning Joe has 3 hours, 3 hours, 5 days a week on a national cable station that is piped into the homes of millions every single day. Every single day. They have all the time in the world, paid for by by the corporatocracy, to lie to you. I've got 1 hour, a small internet network, a 1 hour show, one time a week on a 100,000 watt broadcast station, KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston. And again, the blogs and articles that I write. He has that huge domain. You know, we need many people doing what we are doing here to get this message out. Because one of the reasons Americans are so misinformed is because of that dichotomy. The people telling the truth, the people that are really attempting to do what's good for America, to lift up everybody, to empower everybody. We have small domains. The corporatocracy owns the big airwaves, owns the pipes. But folks, we are going to continue to do what we need to do to make sure you are informed. I tell you what, somebody on the Coffee Party Network, I placed an article there this morning that had to do with Joe Biden and all the things Joe Biden is going to run into if he faces Donald Trump. Moreover, I gave some notice on Joe Biden's issues with the truth. I gave some notice with Joe Biden and his beliefs and what Americans want. And the woman said, if people don't agree with you, you are disrespectful to them. And I'm like, is telling the truth really disrespectful, or is telling the truth being respectful and honoring the people that you're trying to inform? I think the latter is true. Well, again, this morning on the exercise bike, watching Morning Joe, because we must do that. Those of us that do this, we are responsible as well for knowing what's causing the great misinformation in America. So that's what I did. I watched Morning Joe. I watched all news and all channels because we need to know how to frame information for how people are being, because we know people are being misinformed. I want you to listen to how Joe characterized Bernie's Medicare for All and our healthcare system, and show you the little techniques that they're using now, because they know Americans are finding out the truth, because they know Americans are living the misery. He knows now that he has to acknowledge the misery and at the same time attempt to minimize what Bernie Sanders and those progressives who really want the real solutions, they want to minimize their impact. Check this out.
What I found interesting when I was listening to Bernie, and we're talking about how he didn't turn and didn't move to the middle of the Democratic electorate. What I found interesting is I'd hear Bernie talk about health care reform, and I'd agree with a ton of his talking points, where he'd say that the United States spends more money on health care per patient than any other country in the planet. That is true. And that our health care system is extraordinarily inefficient. And while tens of millions of Americans don't have health care insurance, despite all of this money we're spending on health care, you've got big pharma and you've got health care conglomerates racking in record profits, billions and billions of dollars. And it is an extraordinarily inefficient system. We have universal.
So here's the deal. Drug companies pulling in billions of dollars, and it's costing a whole lot. And notice how the characterization of our healthcare system is that it is inefficient. Not that we have rip-off artists, that we have people effecting legalized theft on the American people. It is just inefficient. But what Bernie and Elizabeth and those who want Medicare for all, they want, oh, it is crazy. That is a characterization that they put out there without saying much. And that is why many of us believe what we believe. Continuing.
Healthcare, if somebody gets sick, they go to the hospital, they get taken care of. But it is so inefficient. And of course, it is so dehumanizing for those people who have to go into the emergency room for primary care. So there's so much that Bernie Sanders said that made sense, that cries out for a solution that we will see in this country over the next decade. But when he jumps from those points to a 30 or 40 or 50 trillion dollar price tag, he completely undermines his own argument. He never was able.
Now, here's what he did there. He goes ahead and he says, yes, I know we have problems, but you know, we're going to solve these problems within the next 10 years. They said that in 1980. We'll solve the problems within the next 10 years when Obamacare came along. We'll solve the problems within 10 years. We don't want the public option. No public option because it won't pass, even though it was all controlled by Democrats. No public options. We'll take care of it within 10 years. But what Bernie wants, all those millions of dollars, all those billions, trillions, we'll explain that in a little bit.
To connect the grim realities of our healthcare system with the political realities in Washington, D.C. And I think that has caused him among Democratic voters in this primary.
It has, and we know that democratic socialism is not free, Joe. There's a consequence. If you are a middle-class family, you are going to be taxed 60% under Bernie Sanders' plan. That's a hard number to absorb. Add to that.
That is a lie. That is an outright lie. First of all, let's be clear. Under Bernie Sanders' plan and Elizabeth Warren's plan, which are pretty much in the same, what's eliminated, right, is our premiums. No longer will you pay $400, $500, $600, $700 a month in premiums to the health insurance companies. No longer when you go see your doctor will you have a copay after you have paid your deductible. None of that is there anymore. So all those monies that you used to spend for your health care, for your premiums, that does not exist. So if they look at you and they say, well, the middle class they're going to pay some more in taxes. And by the way, a lot of those taxes are going to be on the most wealthy people because it will be a progressive tax. Instead of paying premiums, you will be paying a progressive tax, meaning a tax based on how much money you make, which for most middle class people mean that the outlays, the monies out of pocket is going to be less than the way we have it now. So whereas you may be paying $1,000 a month in premiums, you may be paying maybe $400 in taxes. So when they talk about that 60% increase in taxes, right, that is to fool you. You have all those other expenses right now. The premiums, the copays, the prices of drugs, the prices for earpieces, the prices for eyes, all of that you're paying right now. That's gone with Medicare for All because it's one big pool everybody pays into. They are lying to you with misrepresentations, and they have 3 hours a day on just Morning Joe alone. And of course, they have all the other programs with which to program you, indoctrinate you into not looking out for what's best for you, but what's best for the corporations that are ripping you off right now.
You're going to tell 150 million people that you are going to now have to work with government-run health care. You're not going to have an insurance provider. The government is going to take care of you. People don't want a revolution of how and have government dictate when and how they can go to a doctor. They want reasonable change.
By the way,
okay, here's the funny part now that she just said. People don't want to be told which doctor to see or when they can go to a doctor, etc. That is the ultimate of lies. I've mentioned this many different times. In the private insurance system right now, you get to choose which private insurance you want. And each of these private insurance tell you which doctors they will allow you to see, which medicines they will allow you to take, which procedures they will allow you to have, and which hospital they will allow you to go to. And if you don't follow those rules, you are on your own. That does not exist in Medicare for all. They are lying to you. Again, this is like saying when they're telling you you have choices when you have different insurance companies. That is like saying slave master number 1, slave master number 2, slave master number 3. Which plantation do you want to work on? Do you want to work on a plantation where the boss uses a velvet whip, a leather whip, or a polyester whip? Let's be clear here. They are lying to you through misrepresentations of what Medicare for All would mean to you and to your personal economy. They are there just defending the shareholders of insurance companies and all these companies that benefit from what Joe talked about, the inefficiency of our healthcare system. The difference between our healthcare and healthcare around the world that's a lot more efficient is that our healthcare costs a whole lot of money. Our healthcare is expensive. Their healthcare is realistic. And to end, check this out.
Susan, guess what? Government would be running people's healthcare and deciding what doctor you have and what doctor your family has and what pediatrician my children see. Do you know what government would be making those decisions? The same government that's botching the coronavirus. Oh, yeah. Americans don't want to take that chance.
Of course, that's the biggest lie. In our current system today, the answer to what he's stating there, it's not government that's doing those things that he just mentioned. It is the private insurance companies that tell you what doctor to see, what medicines you can take, what pediatrician you can see, and everything that you can do with your health care. Government doesn't dictate that. Medicare for All does not dictate that. Private insurance companies that don't owe their allegiance to you, we the people, but owe their allegiance to stockholders and brokers are the ones who make that decision today.